When life knocks you down, and life will knock you down, try to land on your back. Because if you can look up, you can get up. Welcome to Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle. In this video, I'm going to talk about a personal financial statement. I did not know about personal financial statements when I first went to a bank for a loan, and they said, we want you to fill this out as a business because I have my properties in an LLC, not in my own personal name. You can buy rental properties in your own personal name, and that has pros and cons to it. You can get a lower down payment if you have it in your own personal name. I chose not to do that because I wanted the limited liability protection of an LLC. So let's talk about this personal financial statement. And you can get a free blank one from the Small Business Administration. It's free, it's a government form, and it works with many, many different banks. Also, different banks and credit unions have their own personal financial statement that they want you to fill out. But basically, what we're going to do is we're going to look at this old one that I have from 2018. Some of the numbers have been changed, so they're not all accurate, but some of them are. So we're going to just walk through this just a little bit. So of course you're going to put in your business name and your address and all those sorts of things. Sometimes you do not have to put in your social security number, especially if you're going to email this to a bank. Have a secured way of sending it to the bank, for example, through their secured email at, let's say, the credit union. Then you could have your personal information in here. Otherwise, do not put your social security number in one of these forms and then email it to someone. Don't do that. So we look at things like cash on hand in banks. Now, this is from 2018 that I found this old one. Mine are all filled out today and I keep them updated. So anytime I go to the bank, it takes me about 10 minutes to update the entire form because I keep them updated, and you should too. So, but back in 2018, and these are all made up numbers in this part of the form, but it says cash on hand, $4,565. They don't really want you putting pennies in here because then it just becomes too convoluted to try to figure it out. We just want a general idea of how much money you have, and really with this statement it shows them what your net worth is. And we'll talk about net worth in another video. But net worth are your assets minus your liabilities. Hopefully that's a positive number. If you have more liabilities than you have assets, then you have a negative net worth and possibly debt of some sort, and you want to get rid of that debt so that you have more assets than liabilities. One of my sayings is, buy assets to fund your liabilities. So we look at securities held in margin accounts. Now, I want to tell you this. In 2018, I probably did have $956 in the stock market. I'm not a big stock market guy, and as of today, I probably do not have more than twice that amount. And this is, I don't know how many years later, 7 years later, and maybe I have twice this amount in the stock market. I just do not put a lot of money in the stock market. So real estate owned. Back in 2018, it says that I had $681,000 in real estate. And that's true for the most part. However, as we go down this form, you'll see that that is comprised of 3 different properties that make up that number. Now, that's what I mean. In your area, wherever you live, that might not even be one property. So you can't compare someone else's number of the amount of real estate they own to what you could buy in your area. So, but I left that number there just to show you that back in 2018, I had this amount of real estate owned. Now, I owed money on it, so that would go into the liabilities column, which we're going to get to in the second half of the video. So I had a 2017 Honda Accord, And I'm saying the value now is $5,000 because of depreciation on the vehicle. I have a 2007 Harley Davidson. I'm saying the value now is $2,490. Neither one of these two numbers is accurate, but I wanted to have a number in here. I have jewelry that I have sitting in a safe deposit box. I lived in Saudi Arabia many years ago, and I was able to buy gold jewelry at a very low price compared to what gold is today. And I just don't even wear the jewelry anymore. However, these are part of my assets. The value is not $10,000. It's different than that, but I wanted to put a number here just so that you would have an idea of what you're going to do. All of your assets get listed. 401ks, 139,612. That was probably accurate in 2018. Since then, I had to pull money from my 401k to put down on this house. So that amount went down quite a bit, and I'm rebuilding it through my teaching income and putting money into the 401ks at the colleges where I teach. So total assets, it says when you add all these up on the asset side, 838,102, right? Now that's assets. That does not mean that that's all your money, just so you know. Salary, bonuses, and commissions. You can see that it shows here that I made, and this number is not accurate, but $100,000 in 2018. Now, I was getting $80,000 a year from the federal court, but let's say my side hustle income was bringing in $20,000. So right here, I just added it all together and said $100,000 in 2018. So as you scroll down, the bank is going to want to know what kind of marketable securities do you have? What kind of non-marketable securities? I'm no longer at TD Ameritrade, so I left this here because I'm no longer with that particular brokerage. And they're going to want to know that, do you have any partial interest in real estate? Do you own real estate with somebody else? Did you loan somebody else money? Are you in a lawsuit with someone else over something that you either loaned them or they loaned you, or you guys jointly own? Now, let's go down here to where it shows real estate owned. And so I will get this above where my picture is. And as you can see, in July of 2017, I had a property that was $330,000. That's what we paid for it. In 2001, I had a property that's $129,000. Now, this was my duplex that I bought in Vermont. This was the first real 2-unit property that I had. Remember, I lived in the basement of my first house. When I sold that house, I bought this duplex. Now, this was back in 2001. In 2006, when I moved to the DC metro area, I bought a condo for $179,000. So this just jogs my memory because I don't own any of these 3 properties again. But I did want to show you that the $330,000 property we sold when we moved here and moved out of the DC metro area. We sold it for basically $330,000. So we walked away with no money, and that happens in real estate. My duplex that I bought in 2001 in Vermont, I sold when I moved here to Alabama, and I probably made $100,000 on that sale. Now, the 2006 condo that I paid $179,000 for, as I mentioned, 2006, that means I went through that crash in 2007, 2008. The value of that $179,000 condo went down to $50,000. And I ended up selling it just as we were moving here to Alabama for $100,000. It never came back to the $179,000 that I paid for it. So I lost quite a bit of money on that property. So what you have here is you have a property I sold, I didn't make any money at all, broke even. A property that I sold that I made $100,000 on, and a property that I sold that I lost $79,000. So that's real estate. You are not guaranteed to make money anytime that you sell real estate. So then to get down to the bottom part of the form, it's asking how much do I owe on my car, how much money do I have in various different banks, credit unions, all of these different places. They want to know, where is all of your money? And do you have lines of credit? How much do you owe on credit cards? All of your information goes on this form. So let's look at the liability side now, just so that you get the idea of what it is that the bank is looking for and what you should always know about your money. Whether the bank asks you for this information or not, you should always know what your liabilities are. Now, you can update this form once every 6 months, once a year, if you're not buying anything or doing any investing or don't need a loan. But this form should always be pretty accurate. So for liabilities, my car, let's say that I owed, the car was worth, let's say, $4,565. However, I still owe $1,000 on it. So really, that's only an asset that's about $4,000 to the good. Notes payable to banks, unsecured. That could be anything. It could be student loans. It could be anything. Personal loans, anything that I owe that is not secured by an asset. And that's $10,747. Then I have this personal loan down here that's unsecured, and I owe $2,306 on that. Then we get up to the real estate. Now, as you remember, I owned $681,000 at that time, but I owed $509,344 at that time. So really, I'm only up, $120,000, $160,000, maybe. So really, that's only $160,000 as an asset. It's not $681,000, because you always have to deduct how much you owe on things. So when someone says they own a lot of real estate, they may own a lot, but they may owe a lot and not have very much in equity at all. So my total liabilities are $523,377. My total assets, $838,102, or $838,102. So you take that and you subtract the liabilities, and as you can see, I had a net worth in 2018 of $314,765. Now that's somewhat accurate, not 100%, but I had to take a third of that net worth and pull it out of my retirement account to put money down on this house. So when I retired, I only had a couple $100,000 in my in assets, I guess you could say, or in my 401k, basically. Everything else was break even. So just because someone says, I have this amount in assets, you have to look at their liabilities. And that's what the bank does. So I just wanted to take this quick time out to talk about a personal financial statement, which is something people don't talk about a lot. And it's also something you should always have and always know your net worth. Thank you. Please like and subscribe. And the quote of the day, if I can do it, you can do it. Never let your past determine your future.